Hey everybody, what's up? Kevin here from the My Song of the Day Rock 2000 to Today YouTube channel, and today I'm doing another Kevin Figures Out video where I figure out if I like a band or not that I really don't know that much about. On deck today, we have the band 1000 Below. Before we jump into the video of me trying to figure out if I like 1000 Below, please follow My Song of the Day on social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You're going to get the 30-second Song of the Day preview on each platform to expand your knowledge and appreciation of rock and metal music today and for the past 20 years. You can also find out anytime anything gets released on those pages. Instagram is our most popular, where we post different things about asking you questions, connecting with you guys. We are really good with that on Instagram. Also on Instagram, we have our Instagram TV or IGTV videos that come out every single Tuesday night, which is a behind the scenes look at something we're doing here. And our Instagram live streams are every single Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Central. It's an hour. You come talk to us. We have a fun time. Just whatever the hell happens, happens. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel because you get these Kevin Figures Out videos, which are some of my favorite, but you also get things like album reviews, me answering questions, me doing a deep dive into Italian metalcore, which I did last week, which was really fun. And you get top 10 countdowns of just random things and year-end award kind of stuff. And this page is where the Chord Progression podcast resides. And the Chord Progression podcast is our very own podcast. We are unearthing the underground music scene of rock and metal and other subgenres and taking those independent bands and shining a light on them. It's a great way to get to know with a lot of bands. They're going to be the biggest bands in the next decade, so go check it out. You can watch those videos here on YouTube, or you can just listen exclusively on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. Links in the description below for everything. So now let's get to the video. So how this video works, I'm going to be looking at three very specific categories. The first thing I'm going to look at is their music. I'm going to go through 1000 Below's 2 albums up to this point, listen to the music, really get a deep dive into it, and see if I like it or not. Second, I'm going to take a look at their persona and gimmick. However, taking a look at them for a little bit of an initial look through, they really don't have that much of a persona or gimmick as much as some other bands like we've done with Dance Gavin Dancer. They're kind of just anti-rock star appeal, baby metal, and poppy. So this might not be as big of a one. And then the community as a whole for 1000 Below, how their fans interact with them and how everything is around there. And then afterwards, I will take a look and finally figure out, do I like 1000 Below or not? So let's go. So I'm going to figure out if I like 1000 Below or not. I should listen to some of their music, so let's go and do it. Alright, so we did that, and now let's take a look-see. So when I listen to 1000 Below, it's really hard for me to try and pinpoint exactly what their sound is because a lot of their songs are very dynamic and they go through a lot of different progressions and different changes within different styles. So what I mean by that is, really when I took a look at it, their bass is really in rock as it is just very standard modern rock. However, they do play with a lot of different subgenres of rock and metal in their music, and one other thing they do is they play with a lot of different electrical influences in their music. So what I mean by that is when I'm listening to music, I'm getting overtones of things like alt rock, emo. I'm even getting ballad rock style. That's probably the best way to put it, like those hard rock ballads. Getting hard rock as well and metalcore. And then when it comes to their electronic instrumentation influences and inspirations, sometimes they go with it none at all. Sometimes they go with slight and kind of keep it further in the background so it's there but it's not really as prevalent, or sometimes it's very prevalent within the song. So to kind of give you an idea of some bands that I kind of picked up tropes on when listening to 1000 Below, take a look at bands like Crown the Empire. That was a big one. Bring Me the Horizon, but only off of the Amo album. I Prevail, Red Theory, 30 Seconds to Mars, The Word Alive, Amity Affliction. So there's definitely a lot of different influences and dynamics here, but now let's jump into the albums and really take a look-see. So their first album was The Love You Let Too Close release in 2017, and when listening to this album, there are a lot of different dynamics going through this album. However, they really kind of kept a majority of the time focusing on that harder rock style and mixing more of those harder rock tropes in there and being more dynamic with it. So let's take a look at a couple of songs where I really think this worked out very well for the band. Take a look at a song like Sinking Me, where they really focused in on more of this like harder kind of style, a little bit electronic in there, but also focused on more of like a harder metalcore style at times. So my thought process was this was like Crown the Empire mixed with earlier Word Alive. And then taking a look at the vocals specifically on this one, I really like how they mix with all the different progressions that the song went through. And Jason DeBerg kind of reminded me of like a Spencer Chamberlain type, which mixed very well with a metalcore style where the guitars were a lot more higher tuned. I really like this one, guys. Tradition is another one. It was a lot like Sinking In, but it had a lot of a slower pace to it, but it still had that Crown the Empire and Word Alive kind of feel to it. So I really did like this one, as the electronic influences were there, but they were more subtle and they more amplified the rest of what the music was doing, the instrumentation was doing, especially the higher tuned guitar. The vocals on this one, they mix clean and unclean very well, so this one was another well-rounded track from the band that I really liked. And taking a look at a song like No Place Like You, this one I really like because it started out as a ballad that was very ominous and dark, that had rather heavy electronic influences in there, which of course for myself I'm like, okay, I'm a little weird about this, but let's see how this transitions. They did transition more into like a very dark and somber style vocal, but then the rest of the instrumentation started picking up because the drumming was rather heavy and allowed for the instrumentation to transition to this rather full emo style chorus. And then you get to the second verse in the song and the unclean vocals really come out, and this song just has a great dynamic feel to it. Overall, the progressions are great, the transitions are great throughout the whole entire thing. This is a great ballad from the band off of this album. There are other times in this album where I really didn't like what was going on. Take a look at a song like Sleepless, where it had this more pop rock influence with heavy electronic instrumentation influence in the intro. And while the rest of the song really played off a little bit more of like a pop rock and metalcore kind of mixture in between, so they did have good progressions in there. My problem with this one versus something that we saw earlier was this one had an intro that I just could not get past, and that intro just stuck out in my mind, and it was just something that was really hard for me to get past, and it kind of ruined the song for me overall. I know it kind of sucks to say that, but then again, when I was listening to it, I just couldn't get it out of my mind. The Wolf in the Sea was a ballad style song that I really thought, they had an idea on this one that was done well overall, but I just thought it was bland, and where I kind of made the connection with that was when I listened to it, it reminded me a lot of what the Amity Affliction did on their 2020 release, Everyone Loves You Once You Leave Them. And I found that album to be very bland and boring and just really didn't take a lot of vigor to it. Just took a lot of what was going on in the scene today that was more popular, and they tried to do it on a ballad style on this one, and it just really fell flat. It was like a bland ballad overall, in my opinion. Take a look at a song, Into the Gray, and this is where ballads go wrong, and it had this dark, ominous tone that transitioned into hard rock, and while I did like it, that hard rock style kind of just left it rather bland, and the lack of diversity in the transitions really left this down, in a lower spot. The biggest problem I had with this song was the guitar work was very overpowering, where it drowned out the vocals, and it really left little to the imagination when you get that connection of an emotional feel with the ballad. This is like a watered-down version of the song No Place Like You, which I really liked. Overall, I enjoyed this album a lot more than I didn't enjoy it. So what I mean by that is James's vocals, they reminded me a lot of like Spencer Chamberlain from Under Oath, but a little bit higher pitch and a little bit more refined. And why I liked that was because any style the band went with, whether it was metalcore, hard rock, emo, alt rock, whatever it might have been, they really focused in on the vocals, and the vocals really match anything that they wanted to do in terms of style. In terms of style, when they went with those different styles, they really meshed them very well together, and they transitioned through them very well together. I even like when they use electronic influences in them, but they weren't as prominent. They just amplified the rest of it, and that emo ballad, oh, yeah, they did a good job on that. However, there were times on this album where I just really didn't connect with it very well, and that was when they stuck with more of these heavier electronic influences. They focused on a little bit more of the style of music that's going on a little bit more today, where they're kind of focusing on that trend-setting style, where a lot of the songs just sounded a little bit more bland and watered down to me, and it just didn't show that they had as much diversity in those songs when it comes to transitioning styles. It just wasn't there, and it just felt a little bit, left off. However, in the end, why I like this album more than I disliked was because it showed so much promise for the band that they could blend so many different genres and mix in between them and transition in between them. I thought they have a great looking career going into the next album, so why don't we go into album number 2? So 1000 Below's second album, Gone in Your Way, came out in 2019, and what I saw in this album was, yes, they still were able to blend a lot of those different styles they worked with together. However, they focused a little bit more on the alt rock style, bringing that in, and they focused on a lot heavier electronic influence. So let's take a look at this one and what songs I liked and songs I disliked. Take a look at a song like Disassociate because they focus on more of like a metalcore sound, and they really focus on there with heavier and faster paced drumming. And I really like what the vocals do on this one because even when they're clean and unclean, what they do is they match so well with that faster paced out that they really blend together. This was something that was truly magical listening to this style. Even though it was more clean than unclean, you know what? That worked out just fine because James's clean vocals are really well when it comes to, you know, playing in that different style of like metalcore, alt rock, hard rock, emo, whatever you need, it's there. And this one really focusing on a lighter style of metalcore. Take a look at a song like The Edge of Your Bed. Why I like this song was because it was a ballad style song that was very somber, very reflective, and the vocals matched it perfectly with that somber, more depressive tone. And it reminded me a lot of Broken Bones by Rev Theater, but not the way it sounded, but the way it hit you emotionally, with this one being talking about going through a devastating breakup. This was something that I really did like from this band on this album. This ballad was great. Then take a look at a song like Vanish, where you get a slow start with heavy electronic influences where I was a little bit concerned about how they're going to go. Then they transition this harder alternative sound for the verses. When you get to the pre-chorus and the chorus, they kind of mix in and go a little bit more metalcore. It kind of reminded me of something like Underoath, but a little bit more refined in a way, a little bit more technical, a little bit more electronic influence. However, I really did like what they did in this one because the progressions through each section were absolutely fantastic. A big high point for this band. Where I pass on this album are on a couple of songs. Chemical is a great example of this because it reminds me of that kind of style and genre blending that they can do, but what they did was they blended their Crown the Empire style that I found in their music in the earlier parts of their work, but they blended it with like Bring Me the Horizon. But I'm not talking Bring Me the Horizon Sempiternal, I'm talking Bring Me the Horizon Amo. And it had this heavy electronic synth overtone to it, where it sounded like this one, they kind of were just chasing trends at the time, and that's never a thing that I really like to see because it just doesn't really fit with their style in my opinion. So this one was a major pass for me. Another song I didn't care for was Alone Out of My Head, and this had a much lighter alternative style to it, which actually worked in a song like Fake Smile, but the vocals were rather emo influenced, and while I find that to be fine, they were just rather whiny in the end. They just really didn't fit very well overall. And the underlying synth influence was again very strong. It kind of drowned out what else was going on in the song, so it just really didn't match up well overall on this one. Where on Fake Smile I thought it did, on Alone Out of My Head it just did not. The titular song Gone Your Way was probably my least favorite song out of all of these because it's a ballad style that starts out with very heavy electronic synth style, very more soundscape kind of styles as well. Then they go into this like ballad style, very similar like an alt rock 30 Seconds to Mars America album, and James's vocals were the weakest overall on this song, and it's not a good ballad, and it's really weak overall. This is probably their worst performance in my mind, is on the titular song for Gone in Your Wake. Overall, this album disappointed me more than their first one, and while I still like parts of it where they really were able to blend that hard rock bass with different styles like metalcore, hard rock, alt rock, emo, and ballad hard rock style, I still like the fact they're able to transition very well in between that, and James's vocals still have the power to transition it, even as he goes more clean on this album than he did unclean in the first one. So I still like when they do that, and they still have a lot of power when they do that. However, where I kind of got away from this album was the use of more heavy electronic synths and a little bit more alternative bass style. And while that's not necessarily a bad thing, what I didn't like about it was because it seemed like they were kind of trying to chase trends at the time to kind of grow the band and kind of get more of that like pop rock radio kind of feel to it to get more plays, and it just really didn't feel like something that was genuine on a couple of songs. However, the songs where they kind of blended more of those genres and they really worked a little bit more, even with electronic influence, but they weren't as prevalent, I thought those songs definitely stood out on this album. But the ones that were more heavily produced, more alternative rocky, more soft, more watered down in a way, nah, not for me. So do I like 1000 Below sound? The answer is yes, however I don't like the way they are trending. And the reason I say that is because I've seen what they can do on these albums. When they blend so many different genres and they kind of, progress between these different genres and even play with a more ballad style at times as well, they do a really good job with it. They have dynamic songs and a lot of diversity in them that just kind of make you sit on your toes and are like, okay, what's coming next? What's coming next? And James's vocals, whether clean or unclean, they usually match up very well with what's going on in the music. I really like what they do here. There are some hiccups though, but I really like what they do for the majority of it. However, what I'm saying where I'm kind of nervous about the trend they're going on is because in their latest album they focus more on the softer alt-rock style on some songs, and the ballads had a lot more like electronic synth overtones to it, which seems like they're kind of trying to chase some trends a little bit a while, which I kind of hope they just kind of go back and maybe, I don't mind if they include some of these on the album, but it just seems like they're trying to start chasing trends when I feel like their strength is blending those genres together and just having those different transitions going forward. So now it's time for the persona part of this, and when I take a look at the persona and gimmick part of this, I take a look at the 3 bands that have done so far on this, and all of them have been rather unique. You take a look at a band like Dance Gavin Dance, where online they really had this like anti-rock star, more just normal flowing kind of style, like we don't want to be rock stars, but we are kind of guys. Take a look at Baby Metal, they have that cute metal Japanese idol influence in there, so it really just has a whole gimmick to it. And then Poppy being weird for the sake of weird, like it is much more prevalent. For 1000 Below, none of this is the case. When taking a look at 1000 Below, when I was really going into some of their music, trying to figure out who they were and really watching different music videos going online, they seem like that more standard rock band that it just kind of is there. Their persona really isn't outside of just being, you know, more of that current rock star style. When I take a look at their music videos, a lot of it is just performing, a lot of it same style of like bands that I've seen beforehand. However, there's a lot of blue tints in their music videos, which I'm thinking is kind of weird, but I kind of have an idea why they do it. Kind of makes you feel like you're in a Christopher Nolan movie. And hey, who doesn't like Christopher Nolan movies? I mean, come on. Batman, Dark Knight, hoo-ha! When taking a look at the band's social media accounts, I mean, there really isn't much different than what other bands are doing at the time. Taking a look at their Instagram and Facebook account, I mean, a lot of times they're just posting about concerts that they're having, that they're making music, just promoting themselves. There's really not a lot of interaction on there. Twitter is a little bit different though. On Twitter, the band is a little bit more free form, but that's something I've been seeing from a lot of other bands, saying stuff like they're going to add a couple more breakdowns in their albums if TikTok ever gets banned. And then, you know, they're promoting, they're having fun with different things that are going on in the world. And I see other bands doing this as well, so it's not necessarily something that really stands out to me very much. However, I do kind of like it though, because again, you're being able to connect with fans and you're focusing a bit more on Twitter. However, taking a look at their tweets and replies though, they really don't reply to fans' tweets a lot. It's like once every like couple of days or weeks or something like that. So it's not really that prevalent. The guys' personal accounts, I mean, yeah, they're going to be what the personal accounts are for everybody else. They're going to be them expressing their thoughts and feelings, but not really, you know, full force on it. One thing I found was James saying it was like, oh, it was like a world blowing up thing, like what would be one thing you like about this, and he put not hearing any more YouTube comments on how I should just go harder and more unclean every single time. So I kind of found that a little bit funny, and I kind of see that, but overall, this is just something I'm seeing from a lot of rock bands out there. So when it comes to their persona, I just kind of see them more as like a standard rock band. There really is no gimmick outside of that. So when I'm taking a look at their persona, what do I think of it? I'm really neutral to it because nothing really stands out about them, but nothing stands out about them in a negative light. It's just they're kind of there. And what I say about that is I take a look at other bands that are in the kind of same realm as them. In a hard rock realm, take a look at like 3 Days Grace and Seether. Take a look at bands like Chevelle. Take a look at a band like Thrice. And when I take a look at those bands, it's just like they're very similar online, where they're promoting stuff and then they're having a little bit more of a freeform style, maybe on personal Instagrams and on Twitter. And 1000 Below kind of does the same thing. It is a time-tested method over the past 12, 13 years that social media has really been more prevalent in culture. However, they're just really not standoutish in really any way. So this is kind of a neutral one for me. I don't think it's going to have very much weight when I come to my final result. So now I'll take a look at the community of fans that 1000 Below has and really see if I can entrench myself in that. And this one was rather difficult due to the fact that with the previous 3 I had, with Swan posting Dance Gavin Dance, Baby Metal, and Poppy being very much more heavily present in certain sects of pop culture, yeah, 1000 Below really wasn't in that, so it was really hard to try and figure out, especially for a band that is smaller than those bands and doesn't necessarily have the pop culture prominence. So trying to go to Reddit and find things about 1000 Below, I just found links to YouTube videos of their music videos. So, yep, we're going to have to go to YouTube on this one. When it came to YouTube, I wanted to watch live videos of them playing shows because I want to see how the community of fans reacted to their music when they were playing live. And one thing I saw was there was a lot of headbanging. The energy from the band was pretty good, but the energy from the crowd, a lot of headbanging, but also a lot of staying around as well. And for myself, those are concerts I have an okay time at, but it's not the best time. The concerts myself I have the best time at are the ones where I'm bouncing off of people in mosh pits, going absolutely crazy, really getting full on behind the energy on something like, say, Ice Nine Kills or Motionless in White, Seven Dust, Killswitch Engage, just to name a couple. Or ones where it's like the crowd is just, there's mosh pit somewhere, but like the majority of the crowd is just kind of all moving together and the energy is just fully alive with a band like Rise Against. However, this isn't necessarily a bad thing though, as I've gone to see bands like Alter Bridge where it's more people just standing and headbanging and kind of watching the technical precision of the band, which I do enjoy times. I got to watch Mark Tremonti very closely and wonder how the hell he did some things with the guitar. However, with 1000 Below, I'm not necessarily sure that would be the case, so this is going to be a little bit tougher for me kind of community-wise when it comes to their live shows, I guess, from what I've seen. And when it comes to the community of fans online, when it comes to posting on social media, I mean, I was taking a look at some of the stuff they've done, and it's kind of standard when you see from a lot of different fans online of other rock bands are kind of in that same kind of style that I mentioned earlier. So taking a look at what they've done, it's like there's people posting different pictures with the band or videos of the band, that kind of stuff. There really isn't really anything beyond that. Plus, when I went on Instagram to search up the hashtag 1000 Below, there was under 5,000 hits overall, and on Twitter trying to look up 1000 Below, it was rather tough to find people really talking about the band. So when it comes to the community, this one again, I'm going to say it's rather neutral because I really can't tell what's going on. This is going to be something where I'm going to have to experience the band live for myself and kind of get entrenched with people that really like the band live and really get that full feel. So this one I'm going to say is neutral right now. I could have had that when they were on tour with Bad Omens. However, I was supposed to see them on March 15th. Of course, the coronavirus pandemic nixed that show. So I'm going to be just neutral on this one right now. So that means that this one's going to have a lot less of weight on my overall feelings, and the other categories are going to get amped up a little bit more. So, yeah. So now my verdict. Do I like 1000 Below? And my answer is yes, but I'm extremely cautious going forward. So why do I say that? And the reason I'm saying that is because taking a look at their persona and the community, I'm rather neutral on them, as their persona is a lot like a lot of other rock bands out there that I'm not really very full force into their whole persona, and also their community as well, where it's rather standard. So I haven't really experienced a lot of that. Again, a live show could really change up a lot of this stuff, but right now, because I haven't seen a live show, even though I'm scheduled to when Bad Omens resumes that tour and they come around Wisconsin or Chicago, I mean, I'm going to get a little bit more of a full force in this. However, this one's going to be very solely focused on the music. And when it comes to the music, yes, I do like their music. I love the way they're able to take so many different genres around rock and subgenres like hard rock, alternative rock, emo, metalcore, and just that standard rock sound, and mix it all together in different sounds. Plus, James's vocals sound a lot like a more refined Spencer Chamberlain in Unclean and Clean, and they mix in so well with different sounds. Plus, the transitions they work with on a lot of these songs really do work out well, including the ballads. I really like what they do here, and even when they use electronic influences in there, when they keep them minimal to amplify the rest of the songs, yeah, I really like when they do it. However, why I'm extremely cautious, because I've seen them go with more of that electronic synth influence in their music. I've seen them go with more ballads that really focus in on more of like chasing trends of what's going on right now. And that's why I'm extremely cautious, because those songs sound a lot more watered down. They sound a lot less diverse than some of the songs that they go on where they blend a lot more genres in there, which I think is where they're at their peak. And because they did that more on the second album than they did in the first album, I'm more cautious going forward with them. So as it stands right now, do I like 1000 Below? And the answer is yes. However, it's kind of more of like a thin ice yes, because I don't have a lot to go off on their community or their persona. I have not been to a live show, nor can I really get a good feel what their live shows are like right now. And taking a look at the trajectory of where their music is going, I'm nervous. So that's why it's like a yes, but it's a very cautious yes. So thank you for watching my video of trying to figure out 1000 Below. And overall, yes, I do like the band, but I'm going forward with very extreme caution due to the trajectory of their sound. Again, it could all change if I get to see them live with Bad Omens, if that tour gets rescheduled and they come through, because I still have my ticket for it. I have not traded it in. I have not gotten a refund for it yet, so I am still good to go. And you know what? They could easily prove me wrong. They could easily become a much bigger band for me after seeing them live, after really getting that full experience. But right now, as it stands in July of 2020, I really can only go off of the music. And their music solely, I have a yes, but with extreme caution going forward vibe, so that's what I'm going to go with. So thank you everybody for watching. I love doing these. Next week we're going to do the Mongolian metal band, The Who, and that one's going to be fun. So thanks for watching. This is Kevin from the My Song They Rock 2000 a Day YouTube channel. You guys know I end all these videos with a hat flip. Oh well. See ya!